Thank you for having me, and thank you for Together We Will for having me here today. I've been asked to talk to you all about hate speech versus free speech, and that's something I've come across in my almost 20 years of being a political artist. So I'm going to talk about my personal experiences doing political art, the ramifications of doing this art, the difference between hate speech and free speech, and why I believe political speech is so important right now, and especially for artists. This is my billboard, which is currently up until Trump comes out of office. Woo! First, I want to tell you a little bit about the billboard. I did this right after the election. As many of you might have been, I was a little upset. And I was asked to do an anti-Trump billboard. So I took this opportunity to put all my fear, all my anxiety, all of my everything into this board about how I felt about the election. It's also about money and the consolidation of power and money in our country, and how I believe it's threatening our democracy. So it's about corporate money, it's about elections, it's about the corruption of our electoral system, and how this could lead to authoritarianism and also the destruction of our planet. So that's kind of where this billboard was coming from. A lot of people accused me of hate speech with this billboard, and it made me come to the conclusion that a lot of people don't understand the difference between hate speech and free speech. So this led me to do a lot of research, and ultimately I'm working on a documentary about the subject. I received a lot of hate mail and death threats for this work, and I made a little video about my reactions to the reactions that I was getting, and these are voicemails that I received on my phone. And these are pretty tame ones. I received a lot of really nasty ones, but these ones were the more intelligible ones, and this is kind of my video response to them. So let's start with this short video.
Good morning, Mr. Fiorito. I'm calling from Pennsylvania, South Central Pennsylvania, near Harrisburg on Monday, the 20th of March. I saw the articles about your controversial billboard in Phoenix. And although I disagree with you, it appears that you're going to be controversial. So I'm going to ask you about doing a similar billboard showing President Obama with the hood on, like those executioners from ISIS, and Uncle Sam being the person beheaded.
I'll stop this argument. You can't even politically argue a valid point. You know, they're gonna shit on those points. It's a shame that I agree you have freedom of speech, but like, it would be nice if Democrats would just behave responsibly. To be a Republican, to act like childish little assholes with 8 years to go out and wait for the next election and then rejoice when like we got a real leader. Like, you have a right to disagree, but to put up some propaganda that throws back to something so hateful, that's just, you're just ignorant.
You're the one that said that nasty hate speech billboard up South County down there in Arizona. That's so rude. That's hate speech, dude. You need to take that down. That's our president. Show some dignity and respect about yourself. Why can't you? This is America. Not Germany, Nazi Germany. He ain't no Nazi. And he ain't no racist. And y'all need to take that piece of shit time down. If you're the artist of that billboard, you should be ashamed of yourself. I'm leaving free speech, but that's hate. He's our president, and you should show him respect, whether you agree with him or not. Which is the United States of America. You should be ashamed. Hey, Karen, I'm very offended by your post, by your billboard that you made. I voted for Trump, and I'm not a Nazi. I never have been, and I never will be. So the way that you all separate us and make us divided, it's all going to come back on you guys, and oh, you will reap what you sow. God will make sure of that. Because we have God on our side. And you are causing all the problems and the division and all the hate. It's ridiculous. We had to live with Obama for 8 years, just like any normal presidency. For 8 years. We didn't do anything like what you all are doing. Because we let them do their time. We dealt with it. But I'll tell you one thing, I will be calling the senators in the state of Arizona. I will be making sure that something comes down. Because it's not only offensive to me and millions of voters who voted it in, and you all didn't think you would win, it's offensive to our democracy. So I hope you get millions and millions of phone calls from people, because it's going to happen. And you will reap what you sow. You're saying you've been getting threatening calls and things like that. I don't know who these people think they are, but you have a life under the Constitution. It's called freedom of expression, freedom of speech, and this needs to be in people's face, especially these Trump supporters, because they're too ignorant to get it.
So, after receiving hundreds of phone calls and email, I started doing a lot of research into what is hate speech and what is free speech and what's the difference. And I got a lot of comments saying, no, there is no difference, or hate speech is protected under free speech. And so I did a lot of research, and I found out that hate speech is speech that attacks a person or group on the basis of attributes such as race, religion, ethnic orientation, sexual orientation, disability, or gender. Or it's a speech that poses an imminent danger of unlawful action or an intention of unlawful action. But effectively, that the Supreme Court ruled that there is such a thing as hate speech, and it is not protected under the First Amendment, because they have ruled on cases of hate speech. Free speech, of course, we all know Congress can make no law. Freedom of speech is the right to articulate one's opinions and ideas without fear of government retaliation or censorship or societal sanction. Exactly what I've been doing in my work. It's also used, the term freedom of expression is used simultaneously with this, and basically it just means seeking, receiving, or imparting information or ideas regardless of the medium used. So freedom of speech includes the right not to speak, like not to salute the flag or to take a knee, to use certain offensive words or phrases conveying political messages. And this is important. Political speech is treated a lot differently under the First Amendment than and certain offensive words and phrases are allowed in political messages. Also, it includes the right to symbolic speech, like burning a flag in protest. So, freedom of speech doesn't include the right to incite actions that would harm others, like shouting fire in a crowded theater, to make or distribute obscene materials such as pornography, or to conflict with others' rights or freedoms, such as in cases of libel, slander, pornography, obscenity, fighting words, and intellectual property. So I want to say I'm going to talk about this later, but I've been accused also of slander, slandering the president, obscenity, the dollar signs, and intellectual property infringement, which I'll get to in a minute. Basically, what I've learned, what's so important is that there is such a thing called core political speech, and it's the most highly guarded form of speech that we have because of its purely expressive nature and the importance to a functional republic. The primary exception being if you're running for office or you're a candidate or you're in public office, then you're not exempt. But any kind of criticism of public office, criticism of the government or political figure is core political speech and protected. It's the most protected speech we have, and for a reason, because we need this to have a functioning democracy. If we can't criticize the government, we can't criticize the president, we can't criticize our media, then we might as well be living in Nazi Germany. At least that's what I believe. So, freedom of the printmaker. Benjamin Franklin was a printmaker, one of our founding fathers. He had a quote that I thought was really interesting. If all printers were determined not to print anything until they were sure it wouldn't offend nobody, there would be very little printed. In case you don't know, I'm also a printmaker, and there's a history of printmaking itself being tied to free speech and freedom of the press. In fact, the printing press is sometimes referred to as the greatest invention of all time because it facilitated the spreading of knowledge, which fueled the Renaissance and the Reformation, and also the Age of Enlightenment. Printmaking has also been tied to social movements and political movements. Like in Nazi Germany, you had Kathy Kollwitz and John Hartfield making prints against the Nazis. It's also been tied to protest movements and intellectual dialogues and freedoms. So I believe in my freedom of speech. I've been an activist and an artist since I was 8 years old. It's just natural for me to put the two together and to use my art to socially engage with the public. I feel tied to this history of printmaking in our country and also throughout the history of art. And it's been tied to not only our democracy, but other democracies. So a lot of people ask me, why do you make political art? I've always been kind of mixing politics and art in my work. When I moved to Arizona, right after George W. Bush got elected, I started getting heavily into outward political art, or what I call hard-hitting political art. After 9/11, I was in grad school and I started making this kind of work, criticizing the President of the United States. This is George Bush, two prints of George Bush. The one on the right is based on a painting by Jacques-Louis David of Napoleon crossing the Alps. It was commissioned by the King of Spain, and it was a propaganda painting to make Napoleon look like this great warrior, which he wasn't. And actually, when he crossed the Alps, it was like the worst thing. All his men died, they all froze to death, and it was a horrible, horrible situation, but he made it look like he was this hero, which he wasn't. And so instead of Napoleon, I replaced Napoleon with George Bush as he was leading us into Iraq and Afghanistan. I felt like he was our next Napoleon. So the thing that's important about this painting, and the reason I based it on this painting from 1801 to 1805, is that before modernism came along, politics and art were always intertwined. Artists were propaganda machines for the church, for the king, the queen, whoever, the military. They were made to make people look important, great, and powerful, to make us feel subservient. And it wasn't until modernism came along that art, for art's sake, came to being. So there's this long, long history of political art. in our society and in our culture and every culture throughout the world. And I think it's a funny question to ask me, like, why do you make political art? Well, I'm passionate about art and I'm passionate about politics, and I use that to talk about the issues that are important to me, and that's just what artists have done since the history of time. I got a lot of slack for the prints I was making in graduate school because they were a lot of anti-war prints and anti-Bush prints. And, you know, I was told you can't criticize the president during wartime, or you shouldn't criticize war because our troops, and you're, you know, not patriotic, and you're a terrorist, and all these things. But I just, you know, I'm very anti-war. I was very anti-war. I knew as soon as 9/11 happened, I was like, we're going to war with some country that has nothing to do with this, and I know that. And it happened. And the one print on the right, the left actually, shock and awe, was based on a propaganda print from World War II that was against World War II. It was by an anonymous Dutch artist. And I got into Noam Chomsky and this, you know, the whole idea of a military industrial complex that was, of course, coined by Eisenhower, but the whole thing about manufacturing consent and how our media was manufacturing consent, or how we weren't being told the truth about what was going on. And a lot of my work was very controversial. I had to deal with religion and politics and religion war, and I just felt it was weird how we only drop bombs on people who weren't Christian. The one on the left is Madonna of the Bombs. It's a woodcut I did. And Bush was going to drop the mother of all bombs, or Moab, on Iraq. He didn't. Trump just dropped it. So this print just from 2003 became more relevant today than it was back then, which is kind of weird. I started putting these prints up on the street in Phoenix because I wanted to get my message out to the people. I didn't want my work just to be seen in galleries, and you know, only so many people go to galleries. Or I wanted to reach the every Joe six-pack, you know. So these prints were hand printed. They're huge. Well, not huge, 22 by 30. It took a lot of time to do these, and then this is what would happen to them shortly after. So my work wasn't being particularly appreciated. I find it weird, though, nobody attacked Condoleezza Rice. I have this Condoleezza Rice oil tanker here because she had a Chevron oil tanker named after her when she was Secretary of State, which was kind of interesting. Wow. I got the idea to do billboards after doing a lot of research into culture jamming and the agitprop movement, especially was influenced by the Billboard Liberation Front and Adbusters, if anybody knows who that is. I like the idea of putting something out there that no one could take down. So I was lucky enough to meet this woman in Phoenix who owns a lot of property down near the what's up and coming gallery neighborhood. And she owns this billboard. She owns this property with this billboard. And I basically went to First Friday, I went to her studio and asked if I could use it. And she showed her my work and she said yes. And so this was my first billboard. This was in around 2004. I was doing my thesis exhibition at ASU. And Bush was up for re-election, so I put this out there that he had lied to us about the war, and now he wanted us to re-elect him. I had a corresponding website with all my public art projects. I have a corresponding website, and this one gave facts and articles and things supporting what I claim. I always try to back up what I'm saying. So facts and articles about how this administration had led us to war. And then at that time, there was no, I didn't have an email. It just was a website. You could go and make comments. And this was the first time I got like hate mail and I started getting death threats. But I wasn't really concerned because like none of my personal information was out there. It was just through this website, and this was before trolling and everything. Even before, I think like Facebook just started maybe. This is the back of the billboard. It's a two-sided billboard. And this is an example of billboard liberation, which is it was a previously existing billboard, and I just added text to it to change the meaning. It was for a Christian radio station or something. I don't know. Oops.
Oh, she looks mad.
So after I graduated, so that billboard was the first time I had like death threats and hate mail for something I had done. But like I said, it got like on the local news and the local papers. And, I mean, they knew who I was. I wasn't anonymous or anything by any means. They knew I was a student at ASU. But nothing really happened. I left ASU. I left Phoenix. I moved to Los Angeles. And I got a grant to do another billboard. So this time I went after Fox News for being a puppet of the government. And I basically accused them of, charging the war machine up. I had a corresponding website to this too. And the day it went up in Santa Monica in 2005. The day it went up, Fox News called me. They wanted me to come on. And I didn't feel prepared at the time. I talked to a lawyer who had been on Fox News and said, unless you have your talking points, unless you're really like prepared, and even so, they're going to edit it to make you look like an idiot. And I also watched this documentary called Out Fox, which is really good about how Fox News like edits their stuff to make people look bad. I decided not to go on, and later on I regretted this, and then now I don't regret it, but at the time I regretted it. I didn't go on, and anyway, one of their, I guess, sister websites, which is like a right-wing website called World News Daily, picked it up, and they published this article about me and having a history of criticizing the Bush administration. They put my other billboards up, and they released my personal email, and then I started getting like lots of email and death threats, and then they tried to hack me, and it was pretty bad, but still like, it wasn't as bad, I guess, as it could have been. This time around it was different because this time my billboard got international attention, and the day it went up, I guess I did like 5 interviews on TV, and the next day was another 5 interviews, and it was kind of crazy. Anyway, I got a lot more reaction this time. This is the first time I've actually been afraid because they've released my phone number, my home address, my email. I got phone calls, death threats. Anyway, to give you some just kind of an idea of how the media portrayed me and some of the reactions from the billboard, from television. I'm going to play you one more short video.
A new billboard in downtown Phoenix, catching a lot of eyes, and not everyone who sees it is happy about it. Features President Trump surrounded by mushroom clouds. On the side, you see right there, dollar signs styled as swastikas.
Controversial new billboard in downtown Phoenix has a lot of people talking. It depicts President Trump surrounded by a nuclear blast and money signs resembling swastikas.
New downtown billboard showing President Trump alongside mushroom clouds and dollar bills that look like swastikas. Unsightly to some, but right on to others. Artistic expression or an insult to the president.
A local artist says she is getting death threats for creating a controversial billboard about President Trump.
The new billboard in downtown Phoenix is causing some controversy because on it is the president's face. As you can see, they're right in the middle, surrounded by money signs that kind of resemble swastikas and what appears to be atomic bombs going on.
It's pretty drastic. I thought swastikas were very crude and violent.
It's the president. Okay, where is the respect overall, that's just a horrible thing for people just to see in general?
I think it's a bad idea, and it's dividing the people.
It's a First Amendment issue, and I think it deserves to be up there if that's what the artist wanted.
These tweets are going on out to millions of people. How do you fight back?
I think this is what art is supposed to do, make statements. Whether you agree or not, it's a statement. The greatest thing that I've seen in a long time. I think that everything that Donald Trump is doing is destroying America from the inside.
The people who paintballed it, it's not their property. They have a right to express their opinion, but they have to do it through the proper channels.
Shop owners on Grand Avenue we talked to don't have an idea who did it, but some of them say the target practice happened about a week ago. Phoenix police say they haven't even been called about it.
But I think vandalizing is really not the way to go.
The woman who's paid for the artwork on the billboard declined to comment. For now, it's just more paint on a billboard that's still drawing plenty of reactions. Reporting in Phoenix, Chris Groh, ABC 15.
Well, this story just taking an even more bizarre twist in the past few minutes. A viewer reaching out to us saying State Representative Kelly Townsend made this Facebook post earlier today. It shows the billboard in its original form with the caption, quote, "I don't know, this looks like a great place to practice your paintball skills." The post has since been deleted, but we just got off the phone with Townsend herself, who says she not only did she write the post, but she doesn't regret it either. She says she didn't know until now that the billboard had been vandalized, but claims her post was, quote, just in jest. She also believes whoever did vandalize it should be held accountable.
The other side of the billboard has a different message. It shows 5 hands from different races spelling out unity in sign language.
The artist says, on the other side of the billboard, written in sign language, is the word unity, and she hopes that's what will come of this.
So since this billboard went up, I've had death threats, hate mail, trolling, hacking. Someone threw a Molotov cocktail at the billboard. Someone set the adjacent building on fire. I've had paintballs, graffiti, a cease and desist order for the portrait of Trump, accusations of plagiarism and taxpayer money being spent on the billboard, which both are false, but they were reported in the media. So, you know, I can understand why people don't want to speak out, but that's exactly what we can't do when it comes to hate speech. I think what I've learned from this is the only remedy to hate speech is more free speech, and we need to all come together and stand up for each other. And there's another side of the billboard that wasn't really reported on. Very little of it was reported on, but basically the piece is a diptych to me. It's the one side is my fears and all that negative feeling, and the other side is something that I noticed since the election was that all these people coming together and people going to the airport to protest the Muslim ban and the Women's March. And I've never seen in my life, I've been an activist since I was 8 years old. I've gone to protests since I can remember. I've never seen people come together like this before, and it gives me hope for the future. But I know that the only way we can resist what's going on is to unite. So there was another side to this billboard, a more positive side, which was, you know, that there's two sides of the situation, the negative and the positive, and this is exactly how I feel about it. But unfortunately, the media only wanted to focus on one side. And this brings me to another thing I learned about this experience, which is we can't rely on the media or the government to tell us the truth about any situation, especially climate change. That's something that's really concerning to me right now. The one thing I learned about dealing with climate change, I used to think it was fossil fuels, but I learned that it's bigger than that. It's animal agriculture is a huge part of the problem. So in 2015, I started this campaign, Cookout Drought, and it's about the relationship between animal agriculture, drought, climate change, pollution, obesity, everything. And it's just to educate people, because I felt that the media and the government weren't doing their job. I raised a lot of money, got grants for this project, and it has toured California. This project is aimed to educate people about the effects of animal agriculture on our environment. Our mission wasn't to guilt people into veganism, but to just arm them with factual information. And this is our way of subverting the media narrative, and subverting, what we're told and what we're brainwashed to believe by the media and by our government. So I believe billboards are a great way to do that. It's kind of, I think it's the perfect platform. We're always inundated by advertising and media and billboards and things telling us to consume. So this is my way of kind of reversing that, subverting that. This project tours San Francisco, San Diego, Los Angeles, Sacramento, San Jose, Fresno, Oakland, and is now on the I-17 of Phoenix. But I want to end on a more positive note. Not everything I do is negative, and I try to focus on positive things too. I like to do work about animals and our relationship to animals and nature, and I like to combine animals with Buddhist and Hindu gods and goddesses, and make them into these spiritual beings. On the left is Durga, and it's sort of a self-portrait of mine. She's a goddess who comes down and saves the earth, and she has 10 weapons and 10 arms. I changed the weapons to printmaking tools. And it's about bringing the feminine and the creative into the world and defeating this patriarchal consumer society we have. On the right is Ganesha, of course, who represents the cosmos and all living things being connected. I used to put these big, huge murals up on the street. I continued to do street art even when I left Phoenix. I did it in LA for a while, and these were like 8 by 9 feet, hand painted. It would take me like 3 weeks to paint them. I put this one up. I put 3 of these up on the street. I avoided them large so people would look at them the way you go into a Buddhist temple, or you see a statue of a huge statue of going to a Roman cathedral. You'd see these beings as something more than they were. But the pig kept getting painted over. It got gray. This one got gray washed the next morning. I put it down at night, and the next morning it was gray washed. So it got kind of painful doing that. I still do them, but I put them on wood now. It's interesting, the one on the left, the Buddha cat, I did one on the street like that, and it lasted for like a year downtown LA, which is really highly unusual. But people like the cat, they don't like the pig.
No.
I think they're all the same, so that's my point. But ultimately, my work is about trying to create change and dialogue. This is my redesign of my Unity billboard. A lot of people accused me of being Arizona-centric with it, so they said it was the flag in the background. It wasn't meant to be the flag, but so I changed it. But anyway, I'm up for a mural this year in LA. I hope to get this on a wall permanently. But to get back to my point of hate speech and free speech, I think everyone needs, the only cure for hate speech is free speech, and everyone must speak out and do their part and stick up for our artists like me who get death threats. Yeah. Because we need people like you, to come out. We need people who support us, and online, anything. It's just very important. The more people who speak out and speak up, the safer people like me are going to be to speak out and speak up. And I hope that we can all take that in mind when we leave here. Don't be afraid of the bullies, because they're just bullies. Really. And we're stronger together, as we were saying before in that book one was like, by ourselves, we're vulnerable, but together we are so strong. And I truly believe that if everyone does their part, then only good will come. Really, I do believe that. So thank you for having me, and I would love to take questions if anyone has any for me.
What ideas do you have that you feel are not appropriate, maybe for a billboard, or might not be billboard worthy, or someone may not cover there, but that you're really desperate to do?
I do have billboards that I want to do. Like, I would love to do something about homelessness. I think there's so many, think about doing versions of the Trump billboard, but I don't really want to focus on the negative. I would rather focus on more positive issues, like, but I don't know that the only thing I would not put on a billboard would be something depicting something violent or gratuitous or, something that was inappropriate for audiences. So I don't know if I answered your question.
I'm just imagining you have all kinds of ideas that you would show in some secret channel.
I mean, I do have ideas sometimes, and I think they're sometimes a little too much, I mean, even the Trump billboard, at one point I had a little mustache on him. So that went too far. Like, I don't need to go that way. Like, it's fine the way it is. But sometimes you want to go. And I've had people write to me and say, you should put a mustache on him. Because they think I made him look too good. I've had that comment where people said, you've made him look so good that it's almost like a propaganda tool for the right. And then I've had some really right-wing people say, yeah, it's great, I love it. Like, actually like the billboard. Which kind of makes me feel a little uncomfortable. That wasn't my intention to make them like it, but yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if I think there's any subject matter that, is untouchable. It's just how you approach it. Some people think I went too far. I sometimes think I didn't go far enough, but.
Do you have any other questions in here? Just did you ever do anything with Obama?
I was not like a huge Obama supporter, nor was I hateful towards him. I was kind of more realistic about who he was and, his ties to corporate interest and, he's a billionaire. Like you have to be real. Like, all these people know each other. They're all connected. He went to, Bush's wedding or whatever. Like, I was realistic about who he was and what I wasn't very fearful of him, though, like I was Bush or I am Trump. Like, maybe I should have been, because what I learned was, I think it's a good thing in a way Trump got elected, because I think Hillary would have, and I think Obama did make us too comfortable in a way.
Exactly.
That we didn't pay attention, and we just kind of let drones be dropped on innocent people and people being deported, and we let this kind of other stuff slide because, we had, this intelligent person, in office, but in a way that makes it
okay?
Yeah, it's kind of more dangerous in a way.
Yeah, it is.
Like, if he was out in your face that someone's like a white supremacist and a Nazi, you're like, whoa, this is unacceptable. But when it's like, oh, well, he's a good guy, he's so, like, charming. Like, Bill Clinton was so charming. He got away with so much. And I think the same about Obama, and in the way of as much as he he dropped the most bombs. You know, he dropped more bombs than Bush. He deported more people than Bush. He got away with a lot more because we were comfortable with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what would have happened with Hillary.
I might follow that up if you don't mind. Then, by the way, very sympathetic to, so I don't mean to sound like that.
No.
But I wonder if that's would be a good thing for artists to be able to maybe talk more about the left and stuff. Does that make you less assailable by the right, so to speak? You see my point?
I was going to ask the same thing.
Can you repeat that again?
Yeah.
I was thinking another thought.
No, that's fine.
While you were speaking, and
it's just the idea that, there's, for instance, with Hollywood, they're all a bunch of liberal celebrities and blah, blah, blah. Well, to the extent that an artist can actually also point out what's bad or wrong with what Obama's doing and stuff like.
Right.
To what extent is there maybe an obligation to do that in the future?
Right. I think it was coincidental that the time Obama got elected, I had gotten really kind of had this political art, I don't know what you want to call it, like exhaustion from like 8 years of Bush.
We all did.
I needed like a break. And so then
it's like this vacation.
Yeah, like I started doing work about animals, and I was like, I just want to focus on animals for a while and animal rights, and I became vegan, and I got into that. And I guess it was like for a while. I thought I'd never go back to political. I thought I'd never do any more political art until now. So, I think it's good for. I think if I kept going, I had friends who were criticizing Obama left and right, doing posters of him, and I think, and now I have a friend who just did a painting of Harvey Weinstein, not very nice, but I think it's, we have to stop thinking like Democrat Republican problem, because like Harvey Weinstein's like a male patriarchal problem. It's not a left-right problem.
Right.
And nothing is left-right. War is not a left-right problem. There were plenty of Democrats who voted for the war. All these issues aren't left-right issues. They're human being issues, and we have to stop separating ourselves. We should criticize the left more, and I'm all for criticizing the left as much as possible. And I was very critical of Obama. I wrote an open letter to him when he killed Osama bin Laden and dumped his body in the ocean. I was in Australia at the time, and I was like, wow, that's just so amazing that you think you have the right to do that, without consulting anyone. Like, what kind of unabridged power do you have? And this is scary. Like, I'm not like a Democrat or a Republican. I consider myself an independent thinker. So, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Or if I just went off.
All good.
One more question. I have one more question.
I have one. Does anybody else have one? I was wondering, do you know? So there were. I remember a lot of the billboards that were critical of Obama, right? Yeah, be racially motivated. Do you know if the printmakers for those billboards and the people that sponsored those billboards were subject to the same sort of death threats or any of the blowback that you got? Have you heard of that?
I don't know personally, but I will say that in that video, I only used like maybe 16 billboards, and there were a lot more that I edited out. So there were a lot more billboards than that. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they got. I know they were on TV, and those people were outed. I think the Make America White Again. We got a lot of backlash. I remember reading an article on that one in particular, because that was really offensive, and they had to take it down pretty quick. But an interesting thing is there have been other anti-Trump billboards. One that was based on They Live, the movie, and another one, but that was based on my billboard. It was the exact same design, just imitated. And that one came down within 24 hours in Chico. The other one he crowdfunded, he couldn't get his billboard put up in America. I had to take it to Mexico City. And again, the only reason I was looking up to get that billboard was the person who owned it, like I met in grad school and had the George Bush billboard on there, and they asked me to do another one. So it's really hard for people like me to speak up and get those kind of opportunities. It's really hard, even if you're an established artist, it's very hard. And I've known many artists who've had billboards and had them taken down because of pressure. But Beatrice, who owns the billboard, she's just determined to keep it up. No matter what. I'll talk more sales and people and all that stuff. But I don't know about the other people. Yeah, I doubt it. I mean, I just feel like the right is so much more outspoken than the left are. I feel like the left are like secretly they hate the way things are, but they're a little more afraid to say something in public. A little more polite, you know.
I think that's changing.
That's starting to change.
That's changing. Yeah, I hope it changes.
I hope it changes. And I think it's people who are also, many of the left, people are just getting tired of not having their voice heard.
Yeah. And I think it's important that all of our voices be heard. I think that's what our country is supposed to be about. I think that's what the First Amendment is about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, our time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you.